Hey, welcome, ladies. Welcome to Reality Speaks TV. It's me, Sparkle, and SisStar Cipher. I'm your host, and these are the lovely co-hosts. We are all hosts here. I'm just going to introduce us really quickly. Welcome to this episode of the SisStar Cipher, where today we delve into the compelling topic of raising new age children in today's ever-changing society and world. As parents and community leaders, we are constantly faced with the challenge of adapting our parenting styles to meet the needs of a rapidly evolving environment. In this episode, we'll explore whether our traditional or current approaches to parenting are still effective or if it's time to embrace new strategies. We'll embrace the unique traits and skills that children need to thrive in a world dominated by technology and constant change. Our panel of everyday mothers and community leaders will share their insights, experience, and practical advice on how to navigate these challenges. Together, we'll uncover how to balance the benefits of modern advancements with the timeless values of emotional resilience, independence, and strong social connections. We also explore how to foster creativity, critical thinking, and adaptability in our children, ensuring that they are well equipped to face the future. Join us for an enlightening discussion as we decode the secrets of raising resilient, adaptable children in this new age. Let's empower our parenting journey and build a supportive community where we all can learn and grow together. Welcome, sisters. How are you feeling today? I'm so happy
Fabulous.
to be here.
Fabulous. Thank you for having me once again.
And we're going to start with you, Sister Teoka. Can you tell us right now, how are you feeling? And first of all, shout out to Sister Teoka for the inspiration beyond this topic. I caught Teoka probably like midweek because Heather, Teoka, and I said, what a week it's been, right? So finally, when I'm like, hold on, we got to do the SisStar Cipher. Teoka, what we talking about? And you said, let me get back to you. And raising children. And I just said, you know what? That's exactly why I'm overwhelmed, because parenting is faint of heart. It is not for the faint of heart.
It
So,
is
what were you
not.
thinking about when you offered that topic to us?
I really just thought about each one, teach one on this one. I was like, because the struggle is real, and when you think you got it, you done messed up right there. Don't think you got it, especially when you have multiple children, because there's a personality that comes along with each child. And when you think you got it, things shift up. It's like, So, um, and I also thought about how some people have there's different stages in our lives. Some people have raised, and now is tending to grandchildren, or it's such a variety of ways that we can look at this parenting thing, and what works for me may not work for the next person, but then it may work for the next person. So parenting, or you say raising a child, the word for me is rearing children. Is very, very, very important to move this world forward. Like what we do with our children, you know, as a mother, I stand firm on that. That's the most important job that you can do. I don't care nothing about how many degrees and how many zeros you got behind the money you make. They can never pay us enough for the job of being a mother and rearing children up, and especially in the world today. So I thought this was a topic that um we could talk a good while on, and just share some experiences. So
Woo, yes, Sister Heather, you're up next. Tell us how you're feeling and What is
How I'm feeling.
you heard about the topic?
I'm feeling good right now. I'm happy to see all of you. But it's been a wild week. I don't know if it's a Gemini thing or something happening or what's happening with everything, but I feel it's been a really tough mental week for a week and a half. So it's just there's so much going on there. When I thought of this topic, instantly for some reason to me, I started like thinking, gosh, I only have one child. So when everyone's talking about their problems, I feel like, gosh, I don't know if I should say anything half the time because I only have one kid. But for me, one kid was like having 10, even though he's great, it's what I can mentally handle. And, anyway, I don't know. My brain went all different places on how how parents are dealing with the technology change and how I'm trying to be, I don't want them on the screen too much, but when do I let them on the screen and when is too much and how long? And am I getting enough time outside to play? And I'm thinking all these things like that. And I was also thinking about growing up in different communities and trying to learn about different communities when you're not involved in them in your daily life, when kids are going home to one life. And does that make sense if I'm saying like it's more like getting kids all on this crossing the same bridge, if that makes sense, learning about each other more, understanding each other more, understanding we come from a very diverse city, and that's where I'm at with that for now.
Thank you.
I meant that like in a way of like, how do no, I'm gonna go there. I'm just gonna talk about it after.
Listen, you see how long this sheet is? I got some stuff to tell y'all, all right? But it's so funny because I got some input too from people in Nigeria, people living here. So I'm really happy to wait to the end of the question and answer segment to introduce that. And welcome back, Sarah. SisStar Sarah, how are you feeling?
Hi, I'm doing great. Yeah, the rain today, it's like sun and rain, sun and rain, sun and rain. And so I feel like it's trying to kind of make me be in all my different emotions today with the weather. But I'm really excited about this topic because as great as motherhood is and like the concept is celebrated in the country, in our society, like the actual day-to-day living of it is not. And it's another way for women to judge themselves. And it's another layer that the patriarchy puts on us. And so I'm really excited to dig into this topic because it's a way that we can fight back with the kind of like inner demons, so to speak, but also like the outer demons as well, so that we can just be aligned with our true selves. That's what I'm really excited about.
Okay, very good. So I just wanted to say that Heather, you already mentioned screen time, and I mentioned technology. That rolls right out to the first question that I have for you ladies. How do you balance our child's screen time with real world activities, and what strategies have you found most effective in a digital age? Um, when I'm first asking this question, I'm thinking about you, Heather, but I'm also thinking about Teoka and I, who homeschool, and being online is a lot of the tools that we use. So it's like that. Does that count as the screen time for their? Is that separate? So I just want to ask. I just want to throw that question out there. Pretty much, how do you balance your child's screen time with real world activities, and what strategies have you found most effective in this digital age?
I feel like I started out good. Like there was no screen, we had no iPad, we had nothing like that, like for him, like we didn't do it for the first couple years. And we just got him an iPad for his birthday. And at first we are kind of like letting him have leeway on it, letting him do whatever he wanted, like, games wise with his friends and stuff. But then I realized I started letting it go more and then realizing he wasn't doing as much. So we started setting like Tuesdays and Thursdays are screen time only, and like a Sunday evening. We kind of did that to see like how he would behave with it and handle it. That's one of the things that we did with screen time. But sometimes as a mom, I find it easier when I have one kid and I'm like, just go on your iPad or go play a video game. I hate that I do that, but sometimes, and I don't want to. I know that I don't want to do it, but I don't know how to like stop myself from just, it's the easiest thing to keep your kid occupied. It's easy just to tell them to take the screen and go with it. So that's a struggle for me. I think screen is a hard one to figure out right now, especially at 8, because before we didn't have that problem, but now his friends play Minecraft and Stumble Guys, and they're doing all this stuff. And I feel like, oh, I'm not letting him kind of do what his friends are doing. I don't know. It's really a tough thing for me. So, and he's a good boy. He does well in school. He has friends. He reads. He does everything right. And I feel like, why am I taking away the one thing? If he's doing all those things, why am I taking away the screen? So I don't know. It's a really mixed emotion there.
Yes. Ooh, Lord, I gotta go last. I'm listening, ladies. When my daughter's pediatrician told me how many hours she's supposed to have, I'm like, oh my gosh, please don't send children's services to my house. Because she is like, oh, she done broke all those rules. But listen, I'm listening, y'all.
I'll go next. So Heather, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling how you're embracing. You don't want to feel guilty, right? But
Yeah.
you know that it's helpful. And then there's that whole award thing, you know. So it's a lot of mixed emotions with that. So now I can't say that that I'm good for that particular question, because I think I'm struggling too. Okay. I have generations. So I have, my oldest is 30. And then I have a 25-year-old. And then I have a 19-year-old. And then I have an 11-year-old. So I can recall what it was like when there was no cell phones, right? When the computers were like, you know, like I was, but I must admit, I have embraced technology. I am all in. Okay. So when, like the video games came out, like my mom and my mother had me on video. We were on video games. I remember the Michael Jackson video game. We were so into it, right? So I'm saying all that because I really do embrace technology. And I think technology is a tool. I think that we have information at our fingertips, and I don't shun away from it at all. But I think that it is a serious balancing game that we play with our children. So my 11-year-old specifically, like I'm glad that Dr. Cooper never told me a screen time, because I'd be like, because I know that my son is over that screen time. As a homeschool parent, we do not include the schoolwork at screen time. Like, technology is so advanced that we can have a teacher. Like my son been tutored by people that don't even live here. Like, they live down south somewhere. And they've used technology to play video games with them during schoolwork, educational, right? So I think the thing that I really struggle with is the free time, where there's no educational component to these video games and they're spending so much time on it. But my son, he he got me one day. So I had him with he was struggling with reading. I was like, boys is just not really into reading. Like, my girls, they read all the time, but him is like, he's just not into it. It's not his pastime, right? And so, one of the things I would say is, get off the game. You gotta do some reading. Get off the game. You gotta take some time, do some reading, right? And he came to me one day. He's like, Mom, I read while I'm on the game. He's like, matter of fact, playing the game, I'm able to read a little bit more, and I got a text with these people in the chat room. So that brought us some red flags, because I'm like, who you texting with in the chat room, right? Because that's uncomfortable. And then the whole Roblox thing kind of got me a little uncomfortable, because I did, I follow the technology, so I know that there's predators out there. And before we delve into that, how do we protect our children from the predator aspect of it, which is more or less, educating them and making sure that your child trusts you and will come to you. I think that it's very difficult for me to put a handle on the technology thing because I'm into technology. What I have a problem with is him balancing, and then I start to worry about addiction. When they get so involved into the game where everything else fades to black, that right there makes me think, we all have addictive qualities. Like we get absorbed into things, and I know me, so it makes me think him, right? So Apple has a way for you to give your child screen time. The phone cuts off. So I have scheduled time for him where it doesn't go over a particular time unless I want him. He have to ask permission. And if he asks, depending on what I'm doing, like what you say, Heather, like if I'm into something and, I may say, okay, I'll allow another hour. The other thing is that because all the children and most of the children, a lot of children are into this, it's not the same way we grew up where there was always children outside doing something. Even though I've been a homeschool parent for a long time, my children always had someone outside to be around. But everybody is into technology, so it makes it a little difficult. So that's my little spill on that. I mean, I try to control it. I hate to dangle it like a carrot sometimes, but sometimes I have to do that too. Like it shut off because your room ain't done. Mm-hmm. What happened? Why you turned it off? Because your room's not done.
It's effective.
It's hard too because I feel like we're learning this new addiction ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We've become so deep into it. I mean, we can watch so many videos. I can cry, laugh, scream, all in like within scrolling. Like we're learning it too, and we're like, but you can't be on it, but I'm gonna be on mine.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like that's what I do. My son will call, like, you're on yours. Why can't I be on mine? I'm like, because I'm over 18. Like, yeah. I own the house. It's mine. I don't have any.
I pay the bills. I got a job.
Like, we bought that for you. But in all seriousness, though, even I'm on it all the time. So it's hard. Like he'll be sitting there watching TV and I just go and turn it off or his game off. I'm like, all right, it's time to go outside. He's like, what are you doing? It's because I'm feeling guilty all of a sudden because I feel like I'm not done enough. So yeah.
Sarah.
I'm at peace with my relationship with my kids and technology. I don't stress about this. And so my kids are almost 11 and a half and almost 9. So I have a 5th grader and a 3rd grader. What we've been doing for multiple years now is I tell them I want to get to a yes for you because I don't want our parent-child relationship to be always no, and always being shut down. So I try to frame things in a way of because I want them to be comfortable of coming to an authority figure like a parent or a boss or somebody else where they can be free to ask what they truly want, right? Whether that is a popsicle, whether that is a raise, whether that is like they need to be able to speak from their heart of what they truly want. Like that is the skill in life that I want them to learn, right? And so if in our home, in our parent-child relationship, they're always hearing no from me, like then they're going to do what I did growing up, which is don't even ask in the first place. Right. And you're just kind of always acting out of fear. And so when I set up our technology rules, I told them, they work just like Heather was saying, like, and probably Teoka too. Our kids are awesome. They do great in school. They're well-rounded. It's like, so my kids do what I do, right? They get themselves up, they get themselves ready for school. They're really responsible and independent. I really appreciate that about them. That's awesome. They go to school, they do a great job. They come home and they have a few hours. They have done their work of the day, right? And then now it's time to work about being in a family and all living together, and then also some entertainment, right? As humans, like we like to be entertained, and that's honestly why most of us have our phones these days. We are not talking on the phone more than we are entertaining ourselves. So I look at their Xbox, I look at their iPad as entertainment, and so the rules that we have are. My son has to play his trumpet, play your trumpet, clean your room, exercise. So normally go ride your bike around the block a couple times, go for a walk or something. So they have to exercise a little bit. They have to do 2 chores. And these are not 2 chores that I tell them to do. They need to use their eyeballs and look around the house and find something that they know at their age and their experience on what to do. And they have to read for 20 minutes. You do all of that, and then my answer is a yes. And then you get an hour on the technology that you want, either Xbox or iPad. But the first 20 minutes has to be Duolingo, where they're learning a second language. My son is learning Spanish and my daughter's learning German. So that gives them 40 minutes to still play whatever they want to play. And sometimes they'll want to do it together, one on the Xbox and like Minecraft, just like Heather stuff. So I've just set up, here's how you get to a yes. And most of the time they come to me, they come home right away. They want to sit down and read. They set the timers, they do their 2 chores. And so it's pretty effortless on my part now because I've given them the structure on how to get to a yes. And I let them know ahead of time if there's things that would make it a no, such as we have to do this tonight as a family. My son tomorrow has a 6th grade orientation class, that's from 6 to 7. Probably not going to be a good night for technology or whatever. So, but yeah, that's what we do. And my kids just know the system. And sometimes I let them go a little bit longer, but they know they have to set like their hour, timer and everything. And it's really peaceful.
Very good. Thank you, ladies, for
I
sharing.
like that. Can you send me that schedule?
It just mirrors a lot of, have your room clean, do 2 chores, read for 20 minutes, exercise a little bit. Of course, when it's raining, it's like, okay, no, you don't have to do that, but read for 20 minutes, do 2 chores, have your room clean. My son has to play his trumpet. And then you get a yes. So it's basically, them doing everything that I would try to get done before I do my entertainment stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that way I would rather them get lost in a book than go and do technology, right? I'd rather them like play outside a little bit more than do the technology. And so this creates opportunities for them to like spend a little extra time doing those other things first and stuff. So
teachable moment, Heather, because when your son say, well, you're on your device, that it's like, well, I did this, that, this, and now mommy's taking a little break. What have you done?
Are you making dinner? What?
Right? Did you do the chore? Did you
clean the toilet? You peed on that. I cleaned it.
I love
it. I do like the idea though of him coming home and doing like a chore and have to like earn it and then like go ahead, then I feel like he's earned it, but that's a good one. I'm gonna try it. I'll let you know next in a couple of weeks how it works.
And it's so funny because before I get into the discipline part and the virtue of good behavior, like we want to make sure our children are just good humans overall, right? I would think that would be a good goal for parents. I wanted to talk about a little bit, like with my daughter, she found the Lord on TikTok. She learned a lot of what she cooks and creates now on TikTok. So I'm a little along the lines with you, Sister Teoka, about embracing technology. Like I consider myself versed in technology. However, there are times I'm like, come here, baby girl. What are you supposed to be doing over here? So my children are like calling me old heads, and I resent that. Like I feel like I'm the most coolest thing on the planet. But the way I take in technology, they like, I am back. But so it's interesting to me how they can learn, and you got to really look at your. So I didn't know that Apple offers a way you can kind of like screen. I'm gonna look into that. That's something I learned. But it's interesting what they can learn too, and where their mind is at and what they're scrolling on. So I do take a little dive into what they're scrolling on. I kind of peek and look around, and that's how I feel like I do it. Otherwise, it's like just think responsibly when you're scrolling is my thing. So now I wanted to go into discipline, ladies, like just raising good people, right? So this kind of delves into the perspective that I got from Nigeria. The motherland is watching, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. They said that we should take into accountability that when we tell our story, we should be brave about it, because you'll be surprised what people in Nigeria are going through who can relate to what people in America is going through. And that was the person's point to me, that it definitely depends on where the children are being raised, how the children are being raised, whether culture or religion is a factor, because that, shapes all different types of families. And what I see here in America, though, is that a lot of people that look like me has been disenfranchised and separate, and we're going through a whole nother hurdle of healing and growing. So when I'm talking to my 20-something year old, when I'm talking to all my children, they feel like I talk about the black-white issue a lot. Oh, Mom, why everything got to be like? I'm like, because, Sankofa. You have to know what you were faced with from the past to know where you're going in the future. And that's how I raised my children. So although I feel they might feel like I'm a little overbearing with the white and black, it's not to separate, it's to educate. So that's my motto there. But I want to know, what structures have you set for your children, as far as being a good person is concerned? What does resiliency look like, and how do you even teach that to our children? um, so I just wanted you guys to think about that and respond accordingly. I could come up with a specific question, but I think that's general enough that we can kind of take something from it and build on it. What do you think, SisStars? Let's see. All right, here we go. What practical steps do you take to encourage independence and self-reliancy in your child or your children?
I was a stay at home mom when Kaz was first born. So Kaz has been very close with me. And to have him even do something like himself, he needs me to come with him. So one of the things like we've really been working on more is having him ask for ordering his stuff if he gets food, or going up to the counter somewhere to ask for something, and creating that, like, losing that fear of him going up by himself and doing it kind of thing. Like, that's one of the things that we've done with him.
That's a good one.
Like, we've plus signing him up for classes that require like eye contact, like improv and stuff like that. Those are some of the things that we've done to work on that with him.
And how old is Kaz again? He's 8, right?
8. So like everybody has like more children, like they can mess up on the first one, but then you have all your other ones that you're like, do bad. So it's like, this is it. So like, it's like everything we're trying to throw all at once. So I feel like my parenting, and like when I'm a punishment, I'm not really good at yet. I haven't figured it quite all out yet when I punish him for things. Like if we say something like send him to his room, and then I'll go talk to him, but then Dad's creeping up the stairs a minute later and hugging him, or I'm hugging him, and we're not good with the follow through. We suck at it, and I think he knows it now. So, so I don't have advice yet because I'm still working on it. It's truth. I got so far.
So I'll go next. So resiliency, I never really looked at the word in as far as child rearing. I never thought of that word. But I think that it's something that's naturally taught to our children, because we want them to be overcomers, right? And we want them to be able to understand that the mistake that they made is not a forever thing. Like, you can get through and over this, right? But I think that throughout the whole rearing of the children, there was a lot of scenarios where you had to just, as far as discipline, like I've had to let them know that, you have to treat people the way you want to be treated. That's a golden rule, it's a very simple rule. So would you like for someone to be like this towards you? How would you feel if, right? But then the other thing is practicing, what we practice is atonement. So atonement is a process, is that if somebody point out the wrong in you, like if you did something wrong, then you have to acknowledge that wrong, right? And be sad and sorry for what you did, right? And then start working on trying to figure out how to repair the bond um, from the fracture. Because whenever you do something to someone, it's an injury, you know. And they have all the tools where you talk about, someone say, "Oh, I'm sorry." Well, if you took a plate and threw it and cracked it, you said sorry to the cake. I mean, well, cake, right? But to the plate, will it mend? Will it fix the plate? It won't fix the plate, right? So, sorry is a good thing to practice, but to do something to bring the bond back, you know, to show like action, to show action, that you're sad and you're sorry for what you did, it hits a little different. So I remember um years ago, it was a long time ago, my first child, my oldest son. I cannot remember what happened. And if I did remember, I probably wouldn't put it on blast anyway. But he did something and like the old school way before I learned, that it's better to not repeat the generational things, right? Coming up from a certain being raised a certain kind of way. And that's another thing that helps with it too, Heather, is that remembering what you went through, right? Remembering the way you were raised, the adults in your life who were not unfortunately, some of them were not that safe space. They were not, they were not understanding, or they were growing up too. They didn't have the tools to help us through our growing pains, right? So remembering that, help you to be that for someone else. So, me not wanting to continue to to keep the way that things happened in the past as I was growing up, I learned creative ways. And one of the things was the atonement process. So my son had did something, and my husband was like, we're gonna have him atone, and that means he have to do something to mend that fracture. And he built me a stage. When I first started Zumba, and I didn't have a stage. I was doing Zumba down on Broad Street. Um, it used to be called the headquarters or something like that. It's years ago. I've been doing Zumba about 14 years now. This is about 14 years ago. And that's what I said as the atonement. I would like for him to build me a stage. And the way he built the stage, he had to actually because we couldn't leave the stage there. So we had to bring the stage, and he said he had to actually put it together there. So we couldn't leave the stage up. So every time it was time for me to go to Zumba, he would come with me. He would carry my speakers. He would build the stage, put the things together, and get the stage ready for me to get on and do it. And something about that, I understood even more that whatever wrong that had happened, that bond was being repaired, because here my son is, taking time every time to make sure that he complete the task that he was asked to do because of the fracture. So that's just a method that seemed to work, because like we say, we can say all day, you can drop a plate, and you say sorry to the plate, and the plate's not going to fix itself. We can say that, but what is the answer to that? Like, how do we mend these things? How do we teach our children that words hurt, words matter, the way you treat people lasts longer, that's abuse. It's a scar that, you know what I mean, that doesn't go right away. And that is one of the methods that we use. Where's Sparkle go?
Sparkle?
I am here. Am I in the right spot? Is this the right spot, ladies? Okay,
Yeah.
all right, here I am. What I was doing was making sure that I was sharing this podcast while you ladies were talking. Just a little promotional things and behind the scenes. I'm back. But I was really interested in what you ladies do for discipline, because also my discipline, I feel like I overcompensate for their father not being around. So I try not to be so harsh on them because of the trauma and drama that I faced growing up. I try not to be so, hard on them. So even when I yell at them or raise my voice, I'm like peeking out of one eye to see how they're reacting, because sometimes I have this explosion where I'm like, no, I'm the whole bra. Y'all are spoiled. Y'all are like suburban children compared to like how I was raised in the hood, and like I didn't have a lot of everything. I made sure I bent over backwards and, sacrifice in a way my time, my mental health and all that to make sure y'all don't have that. And y'all are just acting real privileged right now. So then I give them a little bit of raw and don't feel bad about it, because I realized that I made sure I created a different way, I removed them from toxic situations. So, and with me raising my children, the frustration is my discipline. I'm not sure about it. I got a call from an old friend who told me, leave your 20-something-year-old who plays video games alone, Sparkle. That's what we needed when we were 20. We needed a solstice. We didn't want to be kicked out at 18, because he hit me with a little neuroscience that at 25 is when the brain closes. So, he's still learning. He can still be nurtured. He can still be guided. Gently introduce him to coding, gently introduce him to, computer programming or app building, because of his interest in video games and anime and all these things like that. So because I'm so culture shocked and don't want them to necessarily run out there and see what the world has waiting for them as young Black men and women in America, that's what stresses me out. So my discipline, trying to, balance what they might potentially face, because the world is so cruel. So that's where I'm like still in limbo with trying to balance that out. The other thing is, before I say I let you ladies have, I just want to get this out, make sure I say it, is that one of my children don't believe in God, and that really, like, it makes my heart ache, but I have to accept it, because it was a point in time in life where I didn't believe in God. So like when these children's characteristics show up, how do we handle it? When we see the characteristic of the father, how do we handle it? I feel like I'm doing somewhat good, because the father and the mother, both of us, we were denied a lot of things and left us traumatized. And I felt like these children were sheltered from that for the most part, because I fostered an environment to make sure that I broke the cycle in that way. But right now, ladies, I feel like I'm in a limbo on, what to do to discipline or push. I'm letting everything flow, but flow might not be the best thing. I don't know. That's why I'm here for answers. I'm going to be quiet now. Another question. I have to ask another question, right?
I was like vibing off of the flow or push. I'm like, that's a question in itself, if you think about it. When we're looking at our children, not meeting the expectations, and because we know their potential, right? So it's like it could be frustrating. I don't know, how old are your children, Heather? You have older, not Heather. Are you 8? You have an 8-year-old. Sarah, how old are your children?
11 and 8.
11 and 8. Yeah. So there's expectations at particular ages of our children. We bore these children. Like, we know the potential that is there. So it is kind of frustrating when we see that they're not moving at warp speed or this speed that we want them to move. But again, like I said earlier, it's like sometimes we have to remember where we were at different ages, right? And then remember the time that we're living in right now. In some cases, the excessive video gaming, yes, it can be addicting, but we see people are making a lot of money off of this as well. Like you said, try to direct them into coding or something like that. It's like, how do we take what appears to be a weakness, right? Because they're not moving, like they're just there, right? And make it their strength, because they are moving, right? Because their mind is being occupied, Minecraft, like it's being crafted. Um, and then how do we not make them feel bad for it? You know what I mean? Because I think that's where the balance is, like, being pushy or, you know, putting restrictions there. How do we make it to where, like we did in the past, where it was like, you can capitalize off of this? Like, for instance, like back in the day, at one point, everybody wanted to be a rapper. No, we're not gonna say rapper. It was a basketball player, right? Basketball player, right? And the children be out there, they be playing hard. I mean, they was focused. I mean, skills. And in the back of the parents' mind, you have, the idea that it's, probably one in, I don't know the statistics, but one in however many that they're going to make it to the NBA, right? But you support them, right? Because like, this is their passion. So how do you wind up supporting them, right? So your child is into playing video games. How can we figure out how to support them and educate them to show them what they can how they can benefit from what they're doing? I think that's the route that I will go with it, because you do look at it like all day. What are you doing? Did you do it? Like
there's a guy who lives around the corner from me. He pays his family's mortgage and everything playing video games through YouTube Live. Like people will follow in and tune in with him to see how he gets through games and how he does it. And then he visits like the comic book stores here and meets kids there and does all sorts of things. And like he's actually making a living off it. He lives 2 streets over from me. And there are like ways for him to get involved in gaming communities where he can have like a YouTube channel, which will talk to people about that, which eventually creates, if he does well, creates sponsorships and creates people to tune in. People will join, like they can become members in his YouTube channel and pay like a fee for that. So there are like all these new kind of things that are happening with technology, especially in the gaming world. My one son's game, it's like a kid's game, but they have a YouTube channel and you can go in there and learn about all the new things that are coming in. And that's awesome. And that's another an avenue that he may want to look into, is starting a YouTube channel and showing people how to play live. If he's really into that, that might be something to think about. That's like
Salon was 8 years old and he started his YouTube channel. He was like, because they literally sit there and watch people play games.
Yeah.
And those people who are playing games get paid for it.
Yeah.
And that may not be the career that we have in mind for our child, right? If that's what we want to call it, a career. It could be just an expression or just one of the ways, stream of income. But I mean, why not pour into them? Show them ways that, a positive way to look at it. That's the point.
And it's great for your relationship too, because it's showing him that you love, that you care about what he's doing, something that he really loves, and encouraging him in ways to try to make it work for him. So.
All right. I'd like to hear from you. What's on your noggin?
So I'm trying to think, like, discipline doesn't come up as much because I root everything in our family values. So there's a few things that I put on repeat to my kids, and they're the metrics that I measure all of their behavior. One is that we are kind to humans and animals, right? Like that is a universal truth in our family. In our households, we get to measure all of their behavior. So hitting your sister, hitting your brother, being super pesky, pulling a cat's tail, like that goes against our value. And that's why I'm talking about it, right? So we don't have a rule of like, you can't hit, you don't do this, whatever. It all comes back to like a universal truth for our family of we are kind to humans and animals. So if they go against that value, we have to stop and we have to talk about it. Their behaviors, how it, doesn't align, better choices, things like that. Because ultimately I want it to be all subconscious. so that way when they're 17 or, older, and they're just like, why do I feel so strongly about doing this action? It's because of these values that will have been ingrained in them. So we do that. We do have that one. We have all humans deserve to be happy and reach their greatest potential, right? So one of our things is don't take away somebody else's joy, right? So that is why I have to talk to my daughter when she breaks my son's Legos that he's been building, right? It's not because of that, but it's like you took away their joy, and how important it is to let other people do the things that they really love to do if they're not harming anybody, right? And things like we talk about that as a value. And then the other one is I have been straight up with them about my goals as a parent, that I am raising good humans. I am raising them to become adults who have good judgment, who can make good decisions, that are kind. Like that is what I need to be able to look back on my deathbed and know that I did. And that no matter what, and that I give them firm boundaries, like whatever their behavior is doing, it does not align with my goal for them. Like I know they're each our souls having a human experience, like they're going to go off to do like amazing things, but for me and my soul, I need to make sure that they're raised. So so basically when they're not in alignment with our values, that's when I need to sit down and talk with them, and we come back to those over and over. And then at that point, I just want them to mostly learn that, right? If they did damage, broke a neighbor's window with the baseball type of thing, like we would have to, I'd have to teach them how to handle that and everything. But for the daily stuff, sisters being pesky, brothers doing this, I just bring everything up again and show them our values and stuff. And then we look at this behavior and different choices, because that's kind of the skills I want them to have. So I don't have, if my son, he's 11, he's starting to get a little defiant in certain things. So I've had to tell him, like, you can be in a mood, you can have your feelings, but you don't get to disrupt the rest of the family with your feelings, right? Or you don't get to tell, if you don't want to eat this, that doesn't mean the rest of the family doesn't get to eat this type of thing. So giving him space, but also some boundaries with that. So like I haven't had to do like mass groundings, because most importantly, I want them to see the values and how they're responsible for their behavior and how to make better choices. Like to me, that's going to get them better in life, instead of creating animosity around like, I can't do this or I can't do that. And so it just doesn't come up as much. And I figure if they learn the lesson, then we can, move on. So that's what we do.
So this is a relatable question, something similar to what we just talked about, but this is under like the developing coping mechanisms for our children. So for me, whenever my children have a problem or they run into, something where they're not handling stress very well, or it's really making them anxious, so I automatically go into the best thing I know how to do, which is advocating for them and talking up for them, and trying to speak up for them instead of letting them speak, because they're not saying it right, or they're not doing it right, or they're not the person who they're supposed to be advocating, standing up to, or the issue or problem that they're facing that they're supposed to be standing up to, they don't have the oomph yet. I feel like they still. So I'll be wondering about that, and I'm wondering, how do you ladies handle that with your children, when it comes to coping? How do you balance the consistency, and how do you teach them to handle stress well? How do you balance that out in this ever-changing world? So my knee-jerk reaction, like I said, is to be like that super mom, that helicopter mom, that over you're not gonna do that to my baby mom. But like, how do you ladies teach that to your children, so they could be strong enough for one day that we're not around, that they'll be able to handle themselves in this ever-changing world?
I just had a situation a couple weeks ago with my 11-year-old. He got upset, and he has a little bit of a martyrdom. His Chiron's in Pisces, so I get it. But it was the first time he ever told me that he wished he was dead. And I remember getting yelled at by my father, and also feeling like completely unloved and wanting to die too. So like, I get it. And so when he did that, it wasn't to like dissuade him. I want him to know that he should be able to voice his thoughts like safely, and trying to put words to feelings like isn't always the easiest thing. So I wanted him to be able to verbalize things, but I wanted him to know that it's something that's common. It's not something that we act on right away. And so I talked about, tried to empathize with him and share my story and stuff, but also just keep him with me instead of being alone and whatnot, having those kind of thoughts. But then I eventually kind of told him that what he's feeling right now is like an elevated sense of emotion, right? Just like extreme sadness, extreme anger, extreme happiness. They're not baseline, they're way up here. And we shouldn't ever make decisions when we're up here, only make decisions when we're baseline, you know? So when I have hard moments, and I told you, like, you're going through a hard moment, but it's temporary, right? Like I told him, tell yourself, if I feel this way in a day, I'll think about it some more. If I feel this way in a week, I'll think about it some more, right? You don't do actions up here. And so then he eventually was able to kind of calm down and kind of get back to being his regular self. But I just checked in with him like another 3 times and was like, hey, are you feeling more baseline? And he's like, yeah, I am, and stuff like that. And things have been really good. So that's just like the latest thing where I've seen my child be stressed about something, but I don't know kind of what brought it on. I just know in the moment, like I didn't want to like invalidate his feelings. And I just wanted to like empathize, but give him some guardrails and some language to hopefully kind of see. So I don't know. That's the only thing I've got.
How did he respond to that?
How did he respond? It took him a little bit, but eventually he kind of clicked back over into his regular self. So so like, I mean, humans love stories. And so sometimes to have them like, you know, sharing my story, I think helped him so that he wasn't alone. Like I said, this is the first time that he's ever said anything like that. And so just being really empathetic, not just treating it as if he said something like, you know, I want to go, I don't know, just something that just didn't seem like so alarming. I just really tried to keep my cool, and just the thing that I wanted him to be able to look back and be like, mom listened, you know, mom didn't jump to conclusions, and she reassured me that this was temporary, right? So that the next time this happens, or he has another kind of elevated emotion situation, that he would be like, hopefully he can start to recognize that, right? And just need to like calm down. You can be alone, you can, you know, whatever you need. But you know, and then he tried to kind of like take a little bit of frustration out on the rest of us, but that's what I told him. I was like, you don't get to decide that the rest of us are not eating this. He had to decide. You know, he and my foreign exchange student were supposed to make cheeseburgers that night, and then he was saying like, no, I'm not going to. I'm like, okay, well, if you don't want to, then your sister and Tim are going to make the cheeseburgers, you know. And so I had to talk. He was getting a little kind of emotional about all that, and I was like, look, just because you have your feelings right now, you're entitled to them, but that doesn't mean you get to impose them and make restrictions on everybody else. So I did put up that firm guardrail, and I did have to tell him, you have 2 minutes to decide, after I'd already told him a few times, like, you know, when you miss out on, you get really upset, Merrick, and then you miss out on opportunities because you're upset. And then when you miss out on them, you get really upset even more, right? Because you missed your chance. Like your window at making cheeseburgers tonight is done in 2 minutes. Otherwise, it's your sister and Tim doing it. And so just being really, like, I had to set some guardrails and just be firm with him on that and follow through. But he eventually came around enough to make cheeseburgers. And then we were just like really happy and grateful to him, and just, you know, showed him that I'm not going to hold like hard feelings because he, you know, acted that way or anything like he processed his feelings. And I don't think they're residing in his body, which is something that I've learned is one of the best things you can do, is just not let emotions just get stuck in your body. Like they've got to pass through. And so that's what I felt like was the parenting win. But man, I felt like I ran a marathon, just the emotionally trying to be like, you know, in my head, I'm like, stay with, you know, just all this stuff. So yeah, it's emotionally exhausting, but I felt like I did a good job in the moment. And it, you know, again, it helps me, like parenting's an experiment, you know? And so I feel like there are definitely some things that I'll do, you know, the same, and maybe there'll be a few things I try kind of differently if another situation comes up. That's all I could do.
Thank you for sharing. Sister Teoka, you know what? I'm really interested in your perspective because you have intergenerational children, right? Like, what I mean by that is like you broke down the ages, right? So to me, like what you would say to your 11-year-old is going to be far different from what you say to your 30-year-old. Like, please tell me.
And my 30-year-old likes to remind me of that. He says I'm softer now. I said I learned, I understand what happens with the last child syndrome, right? He gets tired. um I forgot what the question was, but I was really vibing with Sarah over here.
Yes.
How she was, the reality that she was trying to help her child process through the temporary emotions. And there's so many strategies, right? There's so many ways, you could try to talk through them, but depending on where they are, sometimes you have to even do like a change of scenery. Back in the day, it was called a timeout. Now timeout, seem to have like a badge of, you know what I mean? Like a negative thing to it. But I still utilize timeout with my grandchildren. I'd be like, you're gonna have to go sit on that stair. So just a little bit. Just think about what's going on with you inside here, But I like the idea of being able to help them regulate those emotions and to pour into them that you may be feeling that right now. The other part of it for me is to remind them, because sometimes when you deal with a lot of stress, right? It's like, when we know what stress does to the body, we know what stress does to anything, right? There's value in that stress, So I try to pour into the benefits of the stress that you're having right now. Everything that's worth value have a difficulty attached to it, or stress. So sometimes it's like, you spend a lot of time talking, but after a while, like what you said, sir, you're talking about the emotions. After a while, even if they're not hearing everything that you're saying, it kind of put the fire out a little bit. And it helped. And then don't believe or don't think that it's the stuff you said is not being deposited in. It's being deposited in. They may not be able to, absorb all of it all at one time, but the attention that's given to them in that little temporary crisis, you pouring into them. And like you said, empathizing and sympathizing and letting them know that you're there for them and you hear them and you're willing to listen. It's very helpful. It helps them to cope through. But giving them the tools on their own to be able to manage that, to regulate that, is the most important thing that we can do. I like the idea of extrovert. So you got introvert and extrovert. So extroversion is when you go for a walk and don't just go outside and walk. I want you to look at the trees. I want you to look at the grass. I want you to think about what's happening outside of here, Then the other thing is introversion. That's an introspection. It's like instead of settling on what you don't have, let's think about what you do have, and that brings up a sense of gratitude in them. I may not have won this game, but wow, I remember when, because it's a temporary emotions, like you said, but it's almost like temporary insanity. Like you forgot all of the wonderful things about yourself just in this little bit of moment. And to be there to help to steer them back to that's our job. That's our job. So yeah, and it's hard because I do have a variety of ages, and then it's boy, girl, boy. So it's been a long time since I had to deal with an 11-year-old boy. And at 11 years old, he is changing. He is definitely, my husband keep reminding me, he's like, oh, he's about to be 12. And I remember he said that with the oldest, and I never really understood what he meant, but I found out quick that something changes, something turns on by the time I turned 12. And that's why I'm so thankful that, I had him as a partner to be able to help to balance me out, because I probably would have lost it. I probably would have lost it. You know, I've never been a 12-year-old boy before. I'm never going to even act like I've been a 12-year-old boy, right? And know what they are going through, you know, inside and how to manage them. So I'm thankful for that. But yeah, that's all I got. Can't hear you.
There we go. Heather, do you have any thoughts on that? Thank you, Sister Teoka. That was really
As is, I mean, you guys hit out a lot of things. One of the things that I've done with Kaz since he was little is if he was upset or frustrated, I remember I always would, even though he was in trouble for something or he was mad, I always held him, like, and let him know that I loved him throughout the process. And even still, like, when he gets really mad about something, Kaz likes to go up to his room, slam his door, hate us. And I always go up there and I'm like, I know you're mad. I just want you to know that I love you very much and that, you know, I'm just trying to help you through this. So those are like some of the things that I've always done with Kaz. I'm very emotionally in tune. So I'm always in tune with this kid's emotions, almost to a fault, where I could probably drive him crazy. But we have that connection. I think because of that, he's willing to, when he's mad and he's done being mad afterwards, he's like, you know, Mom, I think I overreacted and I did this and this, and he'll come back down to me and talk to me. But yeah, I don't really, Kaz is 8, so I'm still like just going through all of it right now. But we do have that nice connection together that we built, I think, because of the fact that I've always let him know that it's okay to have these emotions. It's okay to be upset. I'm going to still be here for you. And I think that that is a lot for him. As for when you were talking about before advocating, Kaz advocates for himself. He can't go up to a counter and ask for ketchup, but he will let that teacher know everything, anything that's going on in that school. He'll advocate for toilet paper, spoons, better lunch aids, and all of that. So if I'm very proud about one thing, maybe is that I was never like this and his father wasn't, but he has no problem advocating for himself in school. So
that's interesting how you said the well, Sarah, you said, okay, Sarah, let's go back to Sarah. Sarah, you said that you make it clear that just because they are dealing with this emotion, it don't mean that we all have to be affected by your emotion, right? Sarah, you said little man gets upstairs and slam the door. See, look here. I don't know if that's called gentle parenting, but I don't know that I could sit on the couch and wait for him to come downstairs and cool off, because I'm coming upstairs wondering when did you pay for this door that you just slammed, and why are you trying to make me be stressed out because you angry, and what you mad about? Because you got a roof over your head, you know.
I know. This is why I said
that's hard. That one is hard. It is to slam the door up in here.
I know, and I hate it too. And I'm like, what do I do? Do I just let him go and have his moment and be upset, and then we'll deal with it? Because he is so irrational at this point. There's nothing I can say or do that's going to have him do it. So we do not like when he slams the door. But I'm with you, because I would have never done that as a kid.
Okay, so that's when the atonement process. It's like, hold up, you don't cool yourself up. That door still was slammed. Before we even move to the next part of this, there needs to be some type of atonement. You need to wash the door or something, check the screw or some you need to repair the damage that you did to my heart when it jumped because you slammed the door. Oh, but I'm just saying, like, it's just like you got to be held accountable. You're not slamming no doors up in here, like, because what's going to happen is he gonna go to school, he gonna get mad, he gonna storm out. He's going to slam doors. He's going to throw you. I'm not saying that here. I'm just saying children in general, you knocking over chairs and desks, because, and then, I worked, just to give you background, I worked at the House of Shepherd 25 years ago. And, there are children that express themselves very aggressively when they're angry. And I grew up differently. Like, it's not about not being able to express yourself. It's about how you express yourself. And if that expressing yourself is going to put yourself or anyone at harm. So that just what you just shared with me, even though it's not a big thing. You may have it under control. It's just that where can it grow to if it's not dealt with in a sense of that is unacceptable, right? So, okay, you did that. I tolerated that. I'm waiting for you to cool down to come back downstairs. We're going to have a conversation about you ain't going to do that no more, right? Because that's a behavior that can be carried off into society. We're rearing these children to be citizens in a society that will put them somewhere, put them down in chains and put them in the back of a police car, whatever, if they have a tantrum at a particular age. 2-year-olds in the store falling out drive me crazy. I'm like, take them to the car, right? No, but it happens. It happens, right? But an 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, those type of behaviors become a little bit different in the store or in a public place and stuff like that. So I just wanted to put that.
No, it's good. And that's a new thing too. Like he never threw screaming fits or anything, but I feel like, I don't know if that's where he's just completely lost his cool and went upstairs and does that sometimes. But I do agree that I definitely don't like it. Definitely doesn't
make it at all.
So,
Teoka, we have a boundary around not using our hands when we're mad. I go in full force, like I tell them, you can be upset, you can be mad. That is normal. I understand that, but I'm not going to let you use your hands. You can go outside, you can kick something like outside, you can hit, throw a pillow, whatever you need, like alone, but you're not going to use your hands, because I tell them a little kid that uses their hands when they're mad is going to grow up to be an adult who uses their hands, and that they're going to put a hole in a wall or hurt another human. And I don't want my kids going to jail. So I try to put it in like the bigger thing of like where I'm coming from as a parent that ultimately like helps them. But I put up firm boundaries. Like I will remove them from the room if they feel like they need to go back and get revenge on sibling who did something, because they're so mad. I'm like, nope, you are not using your hands. And I will just drop everything that I'm doing to reinforce that boundary. Because like you said, like we have to, show them, because we don't want those things going unchecked.
Absolutely. Our home is our base where we work all this stuff out, because we're bringing children into a world that has to be a part of a world that they do not love them the way that we love them. Period. And they can't go out there thinking that people going to love them and, and be passive and understanding and caring all the time. And if their behavior is erratic, that's a no-no. They need to know. You just got me mad. You just slammed my damn door.
That's just having me flow right into the question. I'm so grateful the way you ladies are pouring out. The next topic or question is like encouraging social skills and handling peer influence, right? So we do all this work at home, all this disciplining, all these values, and then they're really only applied when in our home. Once they cross that threshold, then we have social interaction, peer-to-peer influence. I want to delve into that, and then I'm going to delve into the questions that were prepared from other listeners. What techniques do you all use with your child or children to develop strong social skills and build meaningful relationships? What techniques do you use? And how do you help your child deal with pressure, peer pressure, and the influence of their friends in a way that strengthens their resilience? Because for me, I'm real dramatic, because when my children now who are 15, 19, and 21, who their peers now are either having children or in jail or just ended up in a bad situation. And I'm like, well, you see what I'm saying? Because their parents or, they were raised this way. And, this is the reason why I'm always like this. Y'all always ask me why I'm so overprotective. These are the reasons why I'm overprotective, because look at your peer. They coming to me, oh, Mom, this one got arrested. Oh, Mom, this one just had a baby. And I'm like, because this is my age group, right? And this is the urban inner city youth living in, their peers together. So I just want to know, what techniques do you use to help your children develop strong social skills and build meaningful relationships? Because some of these youth, they were meaningful. They used to come to my house. They were good. They were around me, but somewhere along the line, they went astray, right? And how do we deal with the peer pressure influence of their children? Because one of my son's friends who got arrested wanted to get in touch with my son and write to him. He got like 10, 15 years. And I'm like, you better stay far away from him. I love him and everything, but you ain't about to ask my son for commissary. It's just, am I wrong for that? Should I let my son send him commissary to show how it is to be a good friend? Or, I'm trying to advise my son to stay away from that, because you can be easily, around the company you keep, you could be easily influenced because you think that's a friend and go down the wrong path. I want to hear how you ladies handle peer influence and social skills and developing meaningful relationships.
It's a lot.
Because I'll be going in all aggressive, like the closing of the door. I'm real aggressive, and I feel like my aggression, not aggression like to be feared, but strict. Like I have a strict tone when I'm saying it. So, I want to hear from you ladies. And
I'm gonna let someone go first. I'm marinating.
yeah,
Marinating.
definitely a lot to think about.
I think this is on. I think this is on the cusp for us because my son's going from elementary to middle school, and I think things will probably change with peers, in 6th grade. But my kids, I've paid for them to go to aftercare, so they get 2 hours of play with kids of all ages, and then there's plenty of adults, and so they're around other adults. Like they love school, so they love their classmates, their teachers. Aftercare they've been doing for years, so I feel like that's good. And then my daughter's in Girl Scouts, and so I've got to witness her with her peers in that space. But I really haven't got to see my 11-year-old son in a peer space. Like I just know him as pesky brother in a lot of ways, and how he relates to other kids. And so we had a little party at our house. He got to invite 3 friends, and he got to make dinner for them and kind of do just a dinner and a movie, so I can just witness, how he acts. Does he act the same? Do I see, like what kind of friends is he interested in? Or whatnot. And that went over really, really well. And so we're having another party this Friday, and, we're going to have, a little bit bigger of a crowd for him, but I'm teaching him how to host, and I'm going to see how he does more. So we're kind of doing some experimenting with that. In a closed thing. It'll be pretty strict, just dinner and a movie, and they'll probably end up playing outside after dinner. We're gonna do like a cookout, and he's gonna grill cheeseburgers for everybody. That's what he has to do. Like he has to help make the food for his friends. He's hosting a party, and they'll probably do laser tag, but mostly just have fun and whatnot. As for your advice with your son and stuff, Sparkle, if he feels any sense of obligation, it's not the right action to take. If he thinks somebody else is going to judge him for doing an action or not, if it's not aligned with his authentic self, then he shouldn't do it. But you shouldn't do it just because somebody asks. It's okay to use your no, and your no is powerful when it comes from your authentic self. So maybe some thought-provoking questions to have him try to get in touch with that side of himself to make a decision. That's what I would say.
I like that. Heather, you want to go next? No, so as a homeschool family, the social, I ran into a lot of conflicting things with people who have a particular understanding of homeschool children. They're not going to be socialized because they don't go to school. And I found it amazing how social they are, like social butterflies. Like throughout all of them, like they were very they weren't shy. Like they were involved in things. Like when the Boys and Girls Club was a thing up at the Parkway, my son was heavily involved with that. My daughters, I kept them in, music and and stuff like that. But I also created a lot of social opportunities for them. So um, I think that as a homeschool parent, or I mean, it may not just be homeschool parent. I think for myself personally, I spend a lot of time managing those social um, environments. So my children were, they didn't do sleepovers. Like that was a no-no. Um, then necessarily play dates wasn't a big thing unless I really knew the person. Like if me and the person were friends and I spent time at the person's house and then there was a play date. So, one would say that I kind of kept them in a bubble, but it was more or less I needed to my job is to manage their affairs. So I needed to manage their affairs, which means that I needed to be that filter for whatever potential interference that will come in. Because I do have children that, like my first two, they did go to public school. My oldest son, he went up to the fourth grade, and then my oldest daughter, she went to kindergarten. She went to kindergarten, and they did well. I mean, it's just that I was tasked with the idea that I wanted to do something different for them. I didn't like the fact that they didn't allow us in school either. Like I wanted to be able to go into the school anytime I wanted to check on my children. And I didn't like that aspect of it. I understand why that rule is there, but I really didn't like it. But I was looking into homeschooling anyway. Matter of fact, I started homeschooling my son when he was in fourth grade for the first time. But so my point is, I don't really know too much as far as dealing with the social part when they were younger, but I've watched them now that they're older, and they seem to be uh, everybody's different, right? Different personalities, and it's like I look at some of the qualities where it's like they're fascinated with other people's ideas, you know, and I think I'm fascinated with people's ideas too. But what sometimes I think what one would battle with was like trying to be like the idea of some, inspired by someone else and then trying that on and not really being their authentic self, So I think I've watched that. Um I like to see the relationship that my youngest is in right now, although it's all centered around video game, the video game. But it's pretty cool to listen to them, interact. I do have a story that one time I remember, and I spoke about this often. Like my son, he was tracked to be a doctor from the age of 12. That's he said he was going to be a brain surgeon. And I remember he was hanging out with friends around the neighborhood. He came home and he decided he wanted to do something different. And I was like, He's like, but my friend so and so is gonna, and we can start a business. And I said, you could do that on the side after you finish medical school. And I was just like, because I really take the whole idea of rearing the children to heart, like because you got them on this, this road here, and then there's people coming to take them off the road to change their mind. And I will always tell people, I'm like, it's important to pour into your child, be their cheerleader, build their confidence that they can do it and we can do it together. I can help you, So as a homeschool parent, you're not just the facilitator of their schoolwork, you're actually the guidance counselor, like bona fide guidance counselor. I think that was the only time I really ran into that. Besides, they're adults now. So it's like, hope it's stuck, right? Hope it all stuck. In regards to what you were asking, Sparkle, with your son, I think I don't know if you heard Sarah because you were off camera, but I have a different take on it because, um, I like what Sarah said as far as finding out if he's if he's doing it out of guilt, like, like he's expected to do that because it's his friend. Because we know that there is a thing with people in jail looking for people to send them packages and stuff like that. Um, but I wouldn't personally have a problem with my child having a friend that is in jail. Um, I would, the thing is that I'm trying to pour into my child that, you know, the way we treat people, people make mistakes and this person may need someone to lean on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that I will be fearful to think that the person that's behind the wall is going to rub off on my child. I will pour into my child and just give them tools that, help them to develop themselves while they're in it. This person got a lot of time to think about a lot of things. Um, and you know what I mean? Like to be an influence to them. I don't know the situation, but I'm just saying what I would do. If my son, a friend went to jail and he was like helping him out. I wouldn't want him to do it out of obligation either, Sarah, but I would want him to be a friend to someone that's behind the wall. The brothers up in there, they don't have nobody, my husband worked for corrections and, I know that it's hard to be behind the wall and not have access to the outside world, So I would just pour into my son and I would ask questions. How's he doing? I will be that, what we do in the community, I would do that for the brother that's behind the wall. But I would want to have something to do with it, like how's he doing? How's his family? I would want to know what they're talking about, not all the way in the business, but like, are you pouring into this person? What is this person gonna pour into you? 15 years in jail, what are you gonna tell you? Yo, I know how to, you wanna make some money, I teach you how to hustle. It didn't work out too well for you, bro. You behind the wall. So,
Right.
so don't teach me nothing. You can't teach me nothing, you know. But it's really about, your child and what you poured into them. So I just want to give you that other perspective because there is a need. They used to have a pen pal thing for the brothers behind the wall, because there is a need. They did something wrong, whether they were, if it's true or not, regardless, right? But they're still people. They still need human connection.
Teoka, I think there's a difference between like living your values and how you treat other people and being your authenticity that way, and then also making sure that you're not rescuing, right? Not rescuing somebody else. I know that's like a big problem. Like for me, like a lesson to learn is not to bend over backwards to try to like save everybody or like try to meet everybody else's needs. And in my turn, and then where those actions coming from, they're coming from like a place of fear and stuff. So just, like not rescuing. And that's is, I don't know, that's like a flag that like my eyes and ears are always like on the lookout for. Are my actions rescuing somebody, and is that my place to rescue? Because if not, then like my answer should be no, type of thing. And even like giving that answer of no can feel really hard if you're trying to like set new boundaries or whatnot. So yeah. But
Well, that's what, yeah, I'm a rescuer. So I will rescue because I struggle. The struggle for balance is real. Long as it doesn't take from me, I'll give of myself. I'm a person that's in the service of the people. As long as it doesn't take away from me, I will rescue. And so that's why I have a different approach when it comes down to people who are in need. It's just a balance, and perspective, just a different perspective, Sarah.
So, and then I also wanted to talk about resilience as a word. We talked about it. It's actually a part of the topic, raising resilient children in an ever-changing world or a new age world. So resilience, I just wanted to read the definition that I found. It's online. It says the capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties or toughness, the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape, elasticity. So I'm thinking just being able to bounce back, right, from having overcome some really tough, difficulties in life. And also, Sister Teoka, you mentioned what child rearing. I looked that up as well. But what do you mean by child rearing? Because I haven't heard that a lot.
What did you find in your definition?
It says child rearing refers to the processes, strategies, and approaches used to raise a child from birth through adulthood. It is the work of taking care of the children until they are old enough to take care of themselves, pretty much.
Right. So you would think that that's raising a child, right? Like it's interjectable, but I see rearing as steering, you know. So like what I said, as far as the guidance counselor part of it, like we go into this, you know, with the idea from birth, it says to adulthood, but it don't stop there. It don't
Yeah,
stop there because you're constantly pouring into your child,
that's exactly
right?
what I've heard. That it doesn't.
Pouring it.
Yeah. Okay. So I had some notes that I took leading up to, and people that I spoke to, and some things, and how things have changed. For example, when I was growing up, the word gay meant happy, and today the word gay means homosexuality, or a preference of I'm trying to be careful on terminology. Like, it's so hard to figure out what to say here. Help me, ladies. But gay has changed, the terminology has changed. So things can change over time, when I was growing up and what it means today. So there could be a little bit of confusion in our own English language and slang. For example, nowadays they use the word lit or get sturdy or thought, and I've never heard of those words growing up. Trees, and I'm like, what does that mean? I sound like an old person. So where I work around a lot of teenagers between the ages of like 14 and 18. And I asked them, how do they feel about today's adults, like their parents? Their parents are like from the millennials, and they're like generation X, Y, and Z, or whatever they call it now, right? And I said, what's up? What y'all think about your parents? They're like, oh, my parents just don't understand. They are just to this, and I'm listening because I have children the same age as them, and I'm like, this is kind of the energy I'm getting from my own children, and I know I'm trying my best to provide and do all the things that I think is my best, and these ungrateful children are up here saying they don't understand. I want to know from you ladies, what do you think? Why are they not talking to us? Why do they think that we can't relate to them? Why do they call us old head? Where does that come from? Why are they so secretive? And why do they think that we haven't lived and we cannot identify and relate to them? What's up, ladies? Talk to me, because I'm getting a little offended here. What do y'all?
I think it's just a teenager thing. I think that's something that's probably been happening for millennia. You know, I think it's just as part as they're growing and evolving as humans. It's just a phase that they go through. Like it's so common, and then yeah, I think it's just being a teenager.
I don't want that phase. I just don't want it.
But they're still going to go through it, and us showing up the best for them, and is what's going to help them, because they're a tornado of emotions, a tornado of new experiences and going on. So to help keep them anchored, whether they appreciate that or not, like when the storm calms down, they get older, they will really, really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's true. I also think that they're trying to create an identity for themselves. And when you create that ID, it's just you and your information on it. They're trying to detach so that they can be like their own self, right? But I think that there's a remedy, because it may not look like a remedy yet, but as they grow, it'll be like a remedy. And that is to keep the communication open with the children. Talk to them about how it was back in the day with you, not in a competitive way. We don't want to, how you hear, Oh yeah, I complained about, taking the bus. Man, when I was your age, I had to walk in the snow was up to my thighs, and I ain't got nothing to complain about nowadays. Oh, everything is handed to you. You know how. So that shuts people down. Don't shut you down though. I mean, it would shut you down if I was like, "Oh, Sarah, you ain't got nothing to complain about. You only got 2 children, and you're 11, and you staying here complaining. What's it gonna shut you down?" So we do that with the children, right?
Yes.
But what if we try something else? Wow. Yeah, I wish I had this when I was older. Boy, let me tell you about this phone that I used to be like trying to have a private conversation, and it was in the kitchen. It was only one phone. It was in the kitchen. And I had to take the phone and go all the way. I had a long cord. And they'd be amazed. Oh, really? A cord on the phone? Yes. And the cord would stretch all the way to the other room. And then I'll go in my room and I'll talk on the phone. Yeah, they so removed from that. Right? Or talking about dancing or the type of music you was into. And what happens is and I've watched this happen as they get older and they start to make up themselves out of the material of their world, everything that they've been exposed to, right? They wind up being a lot like you in some cases. Dang, mom, you listen to a song like, wow, this here's me. Dad, that beat is slapping. That's nice. Let me get can I get that? I'm like, wow, you like this kind of music? This is my kind of music. I didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't disrespect the music they listen. I just was like, this is what man, that's what I used to do back in the day. So I think part of it too is this sharing of your generation in a non-competitive way. They say I don't like that word thought at all. Right. But I mean, like if they, what word would be kin to, I can't even think of a word in my generation that would be like kin to that. I can't think of
them sluts or whores.
Okay. Right.
Or she acting fast.
Yeah. And so at that point, it's like it's like a teachable moment. Like, oh wow, that's what y'all call it. Wow, back in the day, we used to call it that. That's funny how time changed, and I don't know, sit down and watch some movies with them from back, and that because them movies are still relative, like the stuff that we were into, like Poetic Justice or something. I don't know. I haven't seen that in a long time, but I'm just saying the reality is that we need, in order to bridge that gap, we need to be in communication with them. We can't be in competition or condemn them for what is new to us.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And that was submitted from a viewer. Thank you for that submission. And some other thoughts that came out of a different viewer were the challenges all over the world, not only in America, raising children. So this was from Africa. This is what encouraged them to tell us to keep telling our truth, because what is challenging us in America, they also have similar to challenges in Africa. I was told that the bad government all over the world is affecting the children. They're not as caring. The governments today is not as caring, and granted, it varies from country to country. But I want us to be mindful that this is a global platform. So people in London is listening. People, in Africa is listening. People in Japan are listening. These are actual data that I have that proves that these people are listening from these places. So I was also mentioned that social order, like the study of human existence, and religion has their own adjustment in the situation of the world. And we just have to really focus on giving them virtue of good behavior is what was suggested. But the challenges can also be because of parents who also have their own shortcomings, whether it's financial, educational, mental health is involved, addiction, and the list goes on. So before we blame a child, this was the last offering of information from this person in Africa. Before we can blame a child, we have to know their root and their background. So once we get closer to why a child is behaving in a way or being absent or shut down in a way, it could be because of challenges and the shortcomings of the parents or the household in which they're being raised. So I wanted us to keep that in mind in closing. when they really say it takes a village, right? I just want to thank you, ladies, for being here. We're coming to a closing right now, and thank you for those viewers' input, and keep the viewers coming. And I want us to, and anyone who's watching, please, I inspire you to share this podcast, because it's reaching national, it's reaching international, it's global now. Let's share the word. Let's connect. You know, we're a virtual community center. We're not stationary. We're able to move and talk and flow. So anybody who has any questions about this topic or any concerns or would like to add, we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to create a chat. That's what I have coming up next too, is a chat to kind of keep this conversation going, keep the momentum going up until the next time that we flow. And any closing words from you, ladies? Maybe someplace where if you wanted to be contacted, you want to leave your contact information or how people can contact you, or just any words of wisdom, last words that you would like to leave to our listening audience.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let Kaz slam the door anymore. I'm done. Okay, we're done. He's not slamming the door anymore. I'll keep you guys updated next time. Okay. You're right. It's my house. What are you doing? Done. That's my closing for tonight.
Oh Lord.
Funny.
I just want to thank you, Sparkle, for keeping this thing going. Keep sparkling, sis. You're doing it. These conversations need to be had. Hopefully we can do this again. I love the different perspectives. I just hope that this continues to grow. And to all the listening audience, you know, just keep trying, because, you know, you may have yelled at your child and sent them to bed and felt bad about it and felt like you're a horrible mom or dad just in that one particular moment. But they're resilient. So you just take them off ice cream. No, I'm just kidding. No. And it's a thing though. Like in the house, like, you know, Black folks' house, there's never apology.
What you want to eat? You want a snack?
What you want? So you want to go out to get some ice cream? You want something to eat? I made that favorite meal. You liked it. Oh Lord! But we're gonna do better, right? We breaking that cycle. We're gonna talk about it.
We are new age parents, right?
We are.
like I want to say, I think that we're new age, Sister Teoka. All of us, we said some things that it stopped with us, and we reinvented the wheel and created a whole new narrative. This is our history, man.
Oh yeah.
And my closing words are to ditch the mom guilt. It doesn't serve you. It's somebody else's thoughts that, you know, you're abiding by. Just do the best that you can. Parenting's an experiment. Love hard, you know, and just ditch the mom guilt. It's not serving you. That's let it go. Let it go. That's my advice.
For me, Sarah. And 666 says, "Peace, Queen. Sorry I missed out." And Pamela Martin says, "Thank you all, ladies, for your different views. And thank you all for watching. This is Reality Speaks TV. We'll be back next time. This is real people, real talk, and real time. Good night."